Good evening, I'm Nima Rajan, and this is Forum Daily for Friday, June 3rd. Tonight, we mark a tragic milestone in the Russian war on Ukraine. 100 days into the invasion, numbers tell the tale of death, destruction, and economic havoc caused by Europe's worst armed conflict in decades. An estimated tens of thousands of civilians and soldiers have likely been killed, and millions more have been forced out of their homes or country. Factories, hospitals, bridges, schools, and residences have been destroyed. Ukraine says 35% of its gross domestic product has been wiped out, while Western sanctions have targeted Russian oil and natural gas exports. Turning to Ontario now, where Doug Ford has led his progressive Conservatives in a second majority mandate in the province. His Tories were elected in 83 of the province's 124 ridings. This is 7 more than they won in 2018. New Democrats won 31 seats to again form the official opposition, but they fared worse than last time. And Andrea Horwath announced that she would step down after 13 years as a leader. The Liberals will be looking for a new leader as well, because Stephen Del Duca failed to secure official party status with just 8 seats and didn't win one of his own. Green leader Mike Schreiner retained his seat in Guelph. The Native Women's Association of Canada says the government has made little progress in the past year to end violence against Indigenous women, girls, and gender-diverse people. It's been a year since Ottawa released its National Action Plan, which was at the top of the calls to justice put forth by the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. The Native Women's Association says there have been funding commitments, but little has been done to directly support survivors and families. Back in Ontario, more cases of monkeypox have been reported, while Alberta is dealing with its first. Toronto has confirmed 3 more cases of monkeypox in the city. This brings the total number of known cases in Ontario to 5 as of yesterday. Toronto Public Health says 5 other cases are still under investigation. Alberta has identified its first case of the virus, while Quebec has confirmed 71 cases. And New Brunswick is still awaiting test results on the first suspected case in the Maritimes. Meanwhile, a big deadline looms for the 6 people running to become the next leader of the federal Conservative Party. They have until midnight to secure party memberships for their supporters to vote in the leadership race. The candidates have spent the last several months encouraging potential voters to sign up. The new leader will be named in Ottawa on September 10th. On the heels of the Ontario provincial election, vote counts indicate voter turnout has hit an all-time low. Elections Ontario says just 43% of eligible voters cast ballots in yesterday's contest. The previous low was 48% in 2011. The chief of the Siksika First Nation says a land claim settlement reached with the federal government isn't about reconciliation, it's about moving forward. Chief Ware Crowfoot says the loss of land value, mineral value, and ceremonial items is immeasurable. The settlement dates back to 1910, when Canada broke its Blackfoot Treaty promise. The federal government says the $1.3 billion land settlement is one of the largest agreements of its kind in Canada. Some good news for Toronto homebuyers. The Regional Real Estate Board says the Greater Toronto Area housing market is becoming more balanced. The board says May home sales dropped 39% from a year ago. Brokers attribute the drop to interest rate hikes that pushed up borrowing costs. This coupled with inflationary pressures that weighed on spending. However, they found buyers had more negotiating power last month as the market started to balance out. Meanwhile, Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault says a new agreement signed Thursday to cooperate with India on climate action is an opportunity for Canada to export its renewable energy technology. But the agreement does not mention coal power. This despite Canada leading a global movement to end the burning of coal for electricity, and despite India being the second biggest producer and consumer of coal on the planet. Under the agreement, both countries promise to collaborate on everything from renewable energy to decarbonizing heavy industry and reducing plastic pollution. Queen Elizabeth did not attend a church service to mark her Platinum Jubilee. This was after she experienced some discomfort during yesterday's birthday parade events. Buckingham Palace says with great reluctance, the 96-year-old monarch decided to skip Friday's service of Thanksgiving at St. Paul's Cathedral. The UK is carrying on with 4 days of events over the long holiday weekend. Stay with us. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. Up next, Forum Daily's Energy Update with GasWizard.ca's Dan McTeague. All yours, Dan.
Thank you very much for that, Nima. And it's been a pretty busy week here at GasWizard.ca and my work with Canadians for Affordable Energy. We are now approaching, once again, record high prices across much of the country. And don't worry, if you haven't seen those records, you will begin to see them very quickly. By the way, just before we get into the across the country version, it's interesting to see that President Biden now is on bended knee, having to really eat crow over recognition of Crown Prince bin Salman as the de facto leader of Saudi Arabia. It goes to show you just how deep entrenched the green policies of the Biden administration, which of course are mirrored here in Canada by the Trudeau's government to drop emissions and to tax the daylights out of people and to block our pipelines, are coming back to have a real negative effect, certainly on your political fortunes. But here's what Saudi Arabia and others in OPEC are saying. Yeah, we'll give you a little bit more oil. We'll probably next couple of months increase it 200,000 barrels a day. But look, 8 of the last 10 months, OPEC's decision to increase production by about 400,000 barrels has never been met. They're still short 2.5 million barrels. So for what it's worth, I would take everything that's said there with a grain of salt. Most importantly, I think it's the most interesting part, is that their Saudi Arabian energy minister basically said North Americans who believe they can live without oil and gas are living in la la land. I agree with him wholeheartedly, and that's where it ends. Look, gasoline across Canada is likely to increase to record levels. I mentioned Vancouver on Saturday. We'll see 233.9 by Sunday. You're going to be dealing with all-time new record, probably 235 a liter. Victoria won't be very far behind. Even Alberta, Calgary, Edmonton, and all those major cities in that province are going to be testing new levels. They're at 188 right now. They'll be moving to 196, just under $2 a liter. And that's even with the 13.6 cent decrease the provincial government gave motorists there. Unfortunately for Saskatchewan, Manitoba, you will be over $2 a liter. Welcome to the $2 a liter club. And of course, Ontario, which saw a bit of a break here, may get one with the election of the new government, the Ford government. You're still looking at 211.9 for Saturday, and I think probably another penny to 2 cents worth of increase is coming, if not Sunday, then next Wednesday. So you'll be at the 213, 214 range, just a shade for most of Ontario, under 215 a liter. Montreal, you'll be knocking on the door of 220 a liter, including Quebec City. And of course, you look at the Maritimes, which are now in the 208 range in Nova Scotia, 207, 208 in New Brunswick, and same for PEI. We're looking at, Nima, at a scenario where in Newfoundland, although it's dropped to 217, it's likely to head right back up even after the government dropped taxes there by about 7 cents a liter. All this is to say that anybody who thought energy wasn't important may want to take into consideration that the inflation that we're seeing in this country isn't just some random event being caused by external forces. They're actually internally designed. You see the weakness in the Canadian dollar, which destroys our purchasing power. It takes 126 pennies to buy a US dollar. We purchase everything based on that currency in this country, and we value everything based on that currency in this country, has been diminished to a large extent by the fact that we no longer sell oil and no longer have the pipeline capacity. More importantly, imagine if we hadn't killed Energy East, and imagine if we hadn't killed the Northern Gateway pipelines, and we hadn't messed around with activists on the Trans Mountain expansion. We'd be able to give the 3 million barrels that Europe desperately needs now that it has decided to rightfully sanction and cut off Russia. All this, of course, is woulda, shoulda, coulda. But the reality is that the Trudeau government has no interest whatsoever in recognizing the errors of its ways. It's ready to take the country down further, this inflationary spiral, destroy energy affordability in this country. And as a result, even for those of you who don't drive, your food prices are going up. The cost of living is going up. And yes, electricity prices are going to go up. Imagine putting all our eggs in one basket with net zero and electrifying the entire country. Not that we have $3 or $4 trillion to do that, because you have to bury the stuff. You have to create new interties. You also have to create new plants, whether that happens to be small, smart nuclear reactors or whether it happens to be hydro projects. Good luck with that. That's the report for this week. Get ready, pay more at the pumps. We'll see you next week, Nima.
Thanks for that, Dan. That was Dan McTeague, president of Canadians for Affordable Energy. He also runs the gas prediction website gaswizard.ca, which offers drivers a 2- and 3-day forecast for the price of fuel at the pumps. All right, after the break, we'll take a look at the world of cryptocurrencies and digital assets. We'll be hearing from Catherine Murray in Forum Daily's Crypto and Digital Asset Update. Catherine is the host of The Buck Stops Here, where she unpacks the markets and the world of finance. So stay with us. Forum Daily will be right back after a short break. We'll see you soon. Welcome back. Up now is Forum Daily's Crypto and Digital Asset Update with Catherine Murray. Catherine is the host of The Buck Stops Here, and she joins us now to give us her take on the major moves in the evolving world of cryptocurrencies. All yours, Catherine.
Thanks, Nima. Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Crypto and Digital Asset Update. I'm Catherine Murray. Well, we have seen Bitcoin rally above 30,000, up by about 2.6% week over week, accounting for 46% of the overall cryptocurrency market, which now stands at $1.2 trillion. But keep in mind, that is down from an all-time high of $2.9 trillion. The move higher follows about 8 weeks of trading lower and is attributed to a better risk-on sentiment following easing COVID restrictions in China. However, this morning we are seeing the market turn down, trading a little bit lower. That, of course, following the U.S. jobs report, which is weighing on the overall broader equity market sentiment. And as we know, correlations have been quite tight between the cryptocurrency world as well as equity markets. As we've been reporting, despite crypto's volatility and declining price performance from the November highs, venture capitalists have continued to pour money into digital currency startups, with Andreessen Horowitz raising a $4.5 billion fund dedicated to the space. Also, Cathie Wood's ARK Invest and 21 Shares are making another attempt to get their Bitcoin exchange traded fund through the SEC. The SEC previously issued a rejection order back in April for the product. Interestingly as well, the Wall Street Journal is noting that cryptocurrency lawsuits are mounting, fueled by investors who allege some coins were hyped up. The FTC has charged Gemini in relation to alleged false or misleading statements of material facts in connection with the self-certification of a Bitcoin futures product. Remember, Gemini founders are Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss, who are famous through their dealings with Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg. They're also announcing that they're going to be laying off about 10% of their workforce, according to their blog post, referencing a crypto winter. We're also hearing that Coinbase is extending their hiring pause, again, citing current market conditions. Again, we've seen weeks and weeks of a lot of volatility in the cryptocurrency space and really downward price momentum. Globally, though, we do continue to see many countries looking at use cases for crypto, with Singapore's central bank working with DBS Bank and JP Morgan in a pilot program to explore digital assets and tokenization and decentralized finance. The program is going to be looking at the feasibility of tokenization and the interoperability of networks and how digital assets can be traded across platforms. And India's central bank is engaged in the introduction of a central bank digital currency, with plans to adopt a graduated or graded approach by going through stages of proof of concepts for various use cases. Importantly as well here, crypto banking rules will be coming, we believe. The Basel Committee on Banking Supervision is taking notice of the recent market struggles that we've been seeing, likely referring to the collapse of Terra's USD stablecoin. You could see perhaps rules requiring lenders or banks requiring $1 in capital for each $1 in crypto held. And lastly, interestingly here as well, political donations for and from the crypto space topped $26 million in 2021. The lobbying efforts in DC are actually now outpacing some of the large tech internet giants as well as the large pharma companies. And just for perspective, the $26 million in donations in 2021 compares to 500,000 in 2020. Nima, I'll leave it there. Back to you.
Thanks for that, Catherine. Lots to consider as always. That was Catherine Murray, host of The Buck Stops Here. All right, well, meanwhile, U.S. employers added 390,000 jobs in May. This extends a streak of solid hiring that was bolstered by an economy under pressure from high inflation and rising interest rates. Last month's gain reflects a resilient job market that has so far shrugged off concerns that the economy will weaken in the coming months. This comes as the Federal Reserve steadily raises interest rates to fight inflation. The unemployment rate remained a low 3.6% in May, just above a half-century low. The job growth in May was high enough to keep the Fed on track to pursue what's likely to be the fastest series of rate hikes in more than 30 years. Forum Daily will be right back with news from around the world. 100 days of the invasion in Ukraine. China appears close to a new aircraft carrier and mass arrests in Ethiopia. These stories and more after the break, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. As the Russian invasion of Ukraine reaches its 100th day, there are signs that it could become a long-term occupation. The ruble is now an official currency in one southern region, and residents there and in a neighboring area are being offered Russian passports. The Kremlin-installed administrations in both regions have talked about plans to become part of Russia. When President Vladimir Putin sent troops into Ukraine in late February, he said Russia would not occupy neighboring countries. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin is hosting the chairman of the African Union, Senegal's President Macky Sall, for talks. Discussions are expected to focus on supplies of grain that have been stuck as fighting continues there. African countries imported 44% of their wheat from Russia and Ukraine. This was between 2018 and 2020, according to UN data. Wheat prices have soared around 45% as a result of supply disruption, according to the African Development Bank. Russia, the world's largest wheat exporter, has urged the West to lift sanctions over its military action in Ukraine. This in order to allow grain shipments to global markets. The West has rejected the demand as blackmail and accused Russia of blocking Ukraine's grain exports. All right, well, nearby, Polish authorities are reminding people that they can scavenge through state forests for firewood to heat their homes. The go-ahead comes amid soaring energy costs, exacerbated by Russia's war against Ukraine. Opponents of the country's populist right-wing government say it's a sign of Warsaw's failure to manage the economy. The government blames Russia's war for driving up energy costs, but critics say the government's own spending policies have contributed to the problem. Satellite photos analyzed by the Associated Press show China's most advanced aircraft carrier to date appears to be nearing completion. An expert suggests the vessel could be launched soon. The newly developed carrier has been under construction since 2018. Satellite images taken by Planet Labs PBC on May 31st suggest work on the vessel is close to done. Analysts say a launch could come as soon as Friday. However, the vessel would need to undergo extensive sea trials before becoming operational. The carrier's development is part of a broad modernization of China's military as Beijing seeks to expand its influence in the region. Meanwhile, the foreign ministers of Australia and China were both making their final stops on Friday. This on what has become an island-hopping diplomatic duel in the South Pacific. Australia's Foreign Minister Penny Wong arrived in Tonga, where she met with the Prime Minister and other officials. Meanwhile, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi met in Papua New Guinea with Prime Minister James Marape and other officials. This was before flying Friday afternoon to East Timor to meet with leaders there. Turning to the east of Africa, as Ethiopia's neighboring Amhara region is dealing with the country's wrath. Amhara has become the setting for thousands of government-led mass arrests and disappearances of activists, journalists, and others in recent weeks. It was once a key ally of Ethiopia's federal government in its deadly war in the country's northern Tigray region. Some activists accuse Ethiopia's government of targeting ethnic Amhara that it considers a threat to its authority. This as it tries to move on from the Tigray crisis. It is the latest sign that Ethiopia, Africa's second most populous country, continues to struggle with efforts to centralize authority among scores of ethnic groups. A 26-year-old engineer is about to become the first Mexican-born woman in space. Katia Echesarita will be joining a diverse international crew for a 10-minute flight launched by Blue Origin. She is the first passenger sponsored by the nonprofit Space for Humanity and will also be one of the youngest women to fly to space. The flight comes as Blue Origin competes with SpaceX and Virgin Galactic for space tourism dollars. Conservationists are working to bring the critically endangered Bali myna back from the brink of extinction with help from unlikely allies. They are working with bird breeders and sellers in Indonesia. Breeders are given Bali mynas from the government and are allowed to keep 90% of the offspring for private sale. The remaining birds are required to be released into a protected national park in Bali. Other organizations in Bali have worked to help protect the birds while conducting education and training for villages across the region. Experts say scientific research and continued monitoring are needed to ensure success of the birds' comeback. But the model could be replicated for the conservation of other vulnerable and endangered birds. All right, I'm Nima Rajan, and that'll do it for your look at national and international news for today. Remember, for more news on demand, you could always visit our website or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Take care, Canada. We'll see you next time on Forum Daily.